Does part-time PhD hold the same value as full-time PhD? Does part-time PhD have the same recognition and acceptance as full-time PhD? I am on a daily basis bombarded with questions related to the significance, value of part-time PhD. Today in this video, I am going to obviously talk about the value of part-time PhD, but rather than just rhetorically telling you that yes, part-time PhD is important, yes, it holds value in front of full-time PhD, I am actually going to base my answer on certain evidences. So in this video, I have prepared a comparative chart between a full-time PhD process and a part-time PhD process. And step by step, right from the eligibility till the award of these degrees, I am going to tell you how these two degrees are similar or different from each other. And then in the end, you yourself can answer the question whether part-time PhD is as valuable as a full-time PhD. So, you are also interested in understanding more about part-time PhD and its value? Then stay tuned with me, your one and only PhD mentor, advisor and trainer, Dr. Ritika Gauba. So, before we dig deep into the comparative chart of part-time and full-time PhD, let us first understand what is the exact meaning of these two terms. So for all those who haven't watched our earlier videos dedicated to these topics, then let me explain you. Part-time PhD and full-time PhD are two formats of pursuing a PhD in India. Both these formats have been in detail described in the UGC regulations, UGC's PhD regulations of 2022 as well. So UGC has said that if you want, you can pursue a PhD in a full-time mode where a student will be dedicating all their times to their PhD work. They will have to stay in the campus or visit the campus on a daily basis and will not engage in any other work or studies besides the PhD work. So these students, of course, have to engage themselves in a number of university activities. For example, they would be teaching classes, they would be organizing events and such other academic activities as prescribed to them by their guide, along with their regular PhD research work. So this is a full-time PhD scholar. When it comes to a part-time PhD scholar, this is a special kind of format which UGC has introduced specially for working professionals. So if you are a working professional who wants to simultaneously pursue a PhD, you can opt for this option. However, besides work and PhD, there is no third thing that you can do. So you can't take up any other additional course. You can do your work and simultaneously pursue a PhD. And to pursue this part-time PhD, it is important that you have an NOC or a no objection certificate from your employer. So this is the definition of part-time and full-time PhD. Now let us understand what is the process of PhD admission and later award of PhD for both these formats of PhD. So here is the chart. Let us start with the eligibility criteria. As you can see in the chart, the eligibility prescribed both for part-time and full-time PhD by UGC is exactly the same. So you need at least 55% marks in your post-graduation, or if you are a 4-year graduate like a BTech, then you require at least 75% marks no matter which type of PhD you are planning to pursue. Next, we come to the admission process. Here again, you need to either have a standardized test like UGC NET or if not, then you will be giving an entrance examination followed by a viva. And the same process is true for a part-time PhD student as well. However, some of you are going to say that there are many tier 1 or the top ranking institute who insist that full-time scholars should definitely have some kind of standardized test, which is not there for part-time scholars. But dear students, these same tier 1 institutes also insist that the part-time scholars should come with years of experience. In fact, there are institutes who are going to ask you for at least 10 to 15 years of experience before you can apply for a PhD in these institutes. Also, majority of the time, these tier 1 institute also insist on taking an entrance exam for the part-time scholars admission process. So if you would see, there is hardly any difference in terms of the rigor of the admission process when it comes to both part-time and full-time scholars. After you have taken admission in a PhD program, the first thing which both PhD, full-time and part-time students have to complete is a coursework. What exactly is the coursework? We've shared this in detail in one of our previous videos, sharing the link of the same. So coursework is a mandatory requirement. The only difference between the two can be that for a full-time PhD student, the coursework will be on a continuous basis for the first 6 months, which is usually the prescribed time for coursework by UGC. And for part-time PhD, they could break it down on different intervals. So maybe over the weekends, the students have to pursue that coursework, or maybe every 6 months they have to come and do certain classes. So there will be a flexible schedule for a part-time student because they have to balance their work and their PhD coursework together. However, none of them are exempted from this coursework. So after completing the coursework, both full-time and part-time PhD students have to give what is called as a comprehensive examination and a comprehensive viva based on this coursework. And it is mandatory for both these type of scholars to pass these examination and viva with at least 55% marks. So both the category students study the same or similar subjects. They are doing the same number of credits depending on their profile and are also giving examination and vivas. So the rigor when it comes to coursework also remains the same. After the coursework, your actual research work starts, for which you are assigned a supervisor, also known as a PhD guide by the university. Again, a guide, a faculty from the institute is assigned both to a full-time scholar and a part-time scholar, and then from then onwards a scholar has to completely do the PhD work under the guidance and mentorship and supervision of this PhD guide. In fact, many times a part-time scholar is told to have one additional co-guide from their office, like it is prescribed in IISc Bangalore. So many times a part-time scholar can have two guides, one from the university, which is the main guide, and a co-guide from their office as well. After you have started making progress in your research work, it is also important for both the categories of scholars to show their progress that they've made on a 6-monthly basis to what is called as a DRC, or the Department Research Committee. So in front of this committee members, both of these scholars, both formats, have to come and present the work which they have done in the last 6 months. And only when this research committee is satisfied with your work can you progress ahead. So again, this is also the same both for part-time and for full-time scholars. Once you have satisfactorily completed all your entire thesis work, you've also published papers, which is also usually compulsory. In fact, majority of the institutes make it compulsory to publish papers even for part-time and for full-time scholars. So the research work, the research process, the thesis writing, the entire PhD work is The same for both part-time and full-time scholars. Now, once your thesis work is complete, sending the work for evaluation, of course, through the university is also the same. So the same number of evaluators and the same number of rigor is used to evaluate whether your PhD was done under the full-time format or the part-time format. Once the evaluation is complete and you get a positive evaluation, then you both have to face the final defense. That is the final viva based on your PhD. Again, this is also the same both for full-time and for part-time scholars. So now that I have told you from eligibility to the award of PhD degree, you yourself can see that there is hardly any difference between these two formats of PhD. Yes, one major difference that is there relates to the fellowship. Now, a PhD fellowship is a monthly stipend which is usually paid to full-time scholars only. Usually, I'm using the word usually because there are some institutes who do not pay fellowship. But if it is paid, it will only and only be given to a full-time scholar and never to a part-time scholar. There is a logic behind this also. Part-time scholars are already working somewhere and from there they are getting a monthly salary on a regular basis. So they will not get any additional stipend from the university. Whereas a full-time scholar is dedicating all their time and energy to this particular university and in pursuing a PhD. They are also engaged in a number of other activities by the university, and therefore for sustenance, for maintenance, they are given a monthly stipend by the university and sometimes even from the fellowships granted by UGC or other bodies of Ministry of Education. So this is one major difference between the two categories. Apart from that, as you must have already seen in the table, there is hardly any difference between the two. Both part-time and full-time PhD, I am repeating again, have been mentioned, are a part of the UGC's PhD regulation of 2022. There is no separate regulation for part-time PhD, which many people keep asking me on YouTube. I am sharing the part or the point where details about part-time PhD have been mentioned in this UGC regulation. This is point number 13 on page 13. The link of this is shared in the description in case you want to download the PDF and read the complete regulation yourself. Also, if there are any other additional questions related to part-time PhD, do let us know in the comment section below. If you like the work which we are doing to empower you with genuine and in-depth PhD knowledge, then don't forget to like, share and subscribe our videos. Thank you so much for watching my videos.